What is going on? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Move podcast. It must be Tuesday night because the boys are back in town and we got a lot to talk about. Another loaded week. Thank you for another great week, Coach. I'm just gonna keep that number one podcast of the week graphic up there for the Good Pods. We've been number one on Good Pods for this is episode 7 now, and we've been number one the entire time. So we're really killing it as always. Coach Daley joined by Coach Move. Coach Move, how was the week for you, man? I know we had a lot of content that we put out. We had a lot of great episodes. How was the week for you? And did you get stuck, signing a whole bunch of autographs or what, man? Because I know you're getting noticed in public now.
Not quite yet, man. I think we're getting close to that. Obviously, love jumping on here with you guys and talking to everybody and checking out anyone who likes to talk to us as well. Coach, one of my favorite things about this is, you and I are talking live. Sometimes people will send us a comment. If you guys see me looking down, it's usually coaches sending me a text message during the show. But I like hearing back from everybody throughout the week on what they thought on the things we discussed, and it's really cool. Checked out the NFL draft, Coach. Did you watch that at home or were you out and about somewhere?
Yeah, no, I watched it at home Thursday night. I cannot remember where I was, but Thursday night, I remember watching the first. Oh, you know what? I was driving home from, my daughter had an event. I was driving my daughter. I was out in like Harrisburg. I was driving home. It actually kept me awake. I don't condone this to any of you young drivers out there, but I put the phone up on the dashboard and had the draft on, so it was like it was good background noise. And then Friday I just kind of that draft is long, dude.
It is. You know what, too? I felt like this was the fastest one they've had in years, too.
I agree. I agree with you. I think it was the fastest one that I can remember. And but once you get into those later rounds, dude, it's like rapid fire. But man, they're like, I'm like, it was Saturday, and I'm like, holy smokes, they're only in the fifth round. They still got however many more picks to go. But
yeah,
dude, I called an arena football game on Sunday for the first time ever. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I was out there in Reading, PA. I do that women's league, the women's tackle league, and it's produced by SFBN. And they actually had the contract for the Arena League too. So the owner of that company asked me if I was available. So I went down there. It's the first time calling an arena ball game. It was fun. Beautiful arena. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Reading, PA, but the Santander Arena out there, like it was gorgeous. But high energy stuff. They played a team from Utah. And I was like, dude, those like minor league, I don't want to say minor league. I don't want to diminish anybody, but those lower level leagues, I'm like, dude, for somebody to be traveling that far, it's like surprising to me. So I didn't know what to expect. And they showed up. The team showed up. They played the game. Granted, it wasn't the prettiest thing. The first half was great. It was like 26-21, back and forth, fast-paced action. And then get this. In the second half, there was 9 total points scored in an arena football game. And guess what? It was 3 field goals. Wow. How often do you see field goals kicked in arena ball and made, actually? So these kickers were on point, and they were long ones. They were drilling them from like 30 yards, but it was fun,
awesome,
man.
You got them, right, Coach? Awesome when you got a kicker.
And when with the posts, like the way they are in arena ball, they're like, the posts are like 10 yards wide. So those guys were pretty dang accurate. So it was fun for my first time. They asked me, actually, the producer asked me to go back today. Their next game's on Mother's Day. So nice. I gotta check that one out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to swing that one. That's a tough sell for working on that day, but that was fun nonetheless. Do you have anything? How was your Bay Fest, man?
If you make it back up, you got to check out the pagoda. So if you look behind you on the top of the mountain, right where Santander Arena is, up that hill, there's a giant Japanese-style pagoda from like 1890 that overlooks the city of Reading. It's really cool.
Right. You were up there. You coached up there. I didn't even think about that because I was seeing all the signs for Alvernia. So
there we go. We got some Daley family checking in. We appreciate you.
What up? What up? Hello, Mama
Coach,
Daley.
So Quick story. I got a text message over the weekend. So I got
Yep.
I'll call him a friend, but he was a former coach of ours, actually a student I had in class a couple times, Mr. Sean Flannery. He works for the Raging Cajuns, right? He worked for NASCAR for a while. Now he works for the Raging Cajuns. He's really tied in and tapped into their athletic department. And we actually had from our region, Coach Anthony Reagan from Woodbury. His son, if you remember, was a pretty good running back a few years back, and going into his senior year, he actually tore his ACL. I can't remember if it was at a camp. I think it was at a camp, and missed his senior year. While he goes into a school, he ends up at a HBCU, lights it up, and now is in the portal. And I got a text message from Sean Flannery. He's like, "Yo, do you remember, Anthony Reagan Jr.?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. He was a stud." He was like, "Dude, he's going to have a monster season. He is having an incredible spring game down here right now in a monsoon. He looks like a man amongst boys."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember him. I think he ran all over us at Gateway, if I'm not mistaken, one year. But I could be. I don't know. I can't remember. He might not have actually played against us, but he was fun to watch. I remember watching his tape. So
yeah,
loaded show tonight. We got tonight's show, obviously live show. The audio version of that will drop tomorrow. Thursday, we got our No Huddle segment. Friday, we got our South Jersey Spotlight. And then next Monday, we got our Coach's Corner again. Coach Isgro dropping a really good interview with us. We appreciate him coming on and doing a Coach's Corner yesterday. That was an awesome interview. But we're going to get going here tonight with our episode because we got a lot to talk about, as always, because we just got a lot to say, I guess, Coach, and that's a good thing because if we didn't have a lot to say, I guess we'd be a pretty boring show. We're starting off with the look good, feel good, play good segment. You got some rings up there, man. Talk to me about these rings. Beautiful looking rings.
So, Coach, it's funny. When we do this, I probably change my pictures like 3 or 4 times.
That's funny.
Over the course of the week. And I feel like the last couple of weeks I really liked. So, though, I saw the Commander-in-Chief trophy from Navy. So the Commander-in-Chief trophy goes to the winner of the games between Air Force, Naval Academy, and Army, right? And if you don't beat both of those opponents, you don't earn the trophy. So the trophy might sit at a particular school for a couple of years. Well, I just saw this year's and had an explanation of the rings, and I loaded that in. I'm like, oh, that looks so cool, right? And then I saw Kennesaw State, their first ball win in program history. And I thought that was a really cool one too. And then I came across this. So I saw a couple videos where a guy just had his hand recorded and was kind of flexing all these different rings from Indiana this past year. But you can see their Big Ten championship ring. Then they go in their Rose Bowl win, like they're just their whole gauntlet all the way up to the national championship. Coach, these are their rings from this season. Like how cool is that?
How do you feel about that though, Coach? Do you think that's is that a violation? Or is this okay in your opinion?
I don't know, man. I
kind of think this was. Listen, I'll give you the ring for the Big Ten championship, and I'll give you the ring for the national title. But I don't like the rings for the other ones, man. It's almost like overkill there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this is kind of funny. It's that in between where we're not quite at a streamlined playoff. They're trying to hold on to the nostalgia with the bowl games. I'll tell you what I like, though, Coach. That one dead center, the Rose Bowl ring, I think is the best ring. You hear people talk about college baseball on the road to Omaha and how that setting is great no matter who's there. And there's a lot of talk in college football about the Rose Bowl being the destination for the national championship every year as well. But thought it was pretty cool. Wanted to load it in. Thought it was very interesting as well. I'm kind of obsessed by programs who are have-nots or non-traditional, non-blue blood programs. I can't even talk tonight. Sorry.
That's all right.
But them being able to be successful, I think it's really cool. So I thought this was a good lineup to include as well. But I definitely see your point about a ring violation.
Yeah, I'm with you though. Like I'm all for like a destination national championships. Like, okay, make the Rose Bowl the national title game every year. I think I'm for that, man, and build it around that parade and all that stuff. So I think that would be pretty cool if they could make that work somehow. We're moving on though, and you guys listen. I don't always agree with your cleats that you put up here. Maybe you're a little bit more new school, and I'm a little bit more traditional when it comes to the shoe game, Coach. But I really like this look here. I don't know exactly what they're called, but you're gonna inform me here. But I really like these really traditional looking cleats, man. Don't tell me you froze on us again, Coach. I thought we had this fixed. I talked to the producer. We had it put in. You good?
Yeah, they are a great, clean look. I'm good. Can you
Yeah.
hear
All
me
right.
is the
You're back.
question.
All right. You're back, man.
All right.
We
That
can
just
hear
fell
you
off. Just
now.
a simple, clean, classic Jordan cleat. And it has the paint splatter, a little bit of a touch of black on there. Really classic, kind of traditional look. But I agree. I like these cleats, Coach. I wore black on black cleats every game, man. So
Yeah.
maybe as I got older, I'm more open to what these cleats look like.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm more of a traditionalist, and I can't say that I had the old quote unquote swag thing down, but these are pretty sharp looking. We're moving on though. I got a helmet up here, and this is a pretty sick looking helmet. This is from we were talking about arena football. This is from the Washington Wolfpack of AFL 1. And you gotta, if you're listening to this live, you gotta hop on at some point and watch the replay of the show, because you got to see the picture of this helmet. This is just almost, I don't know, like it's an abstract painting almost of a wolf on this helmet, and it's got like color, like pastel colors, like you got purple, teal, light blue, orange on there.
You
Dude,
can see
it's
the
just
eyes.
a sick, like you can see the eyes in there, and I just don't know. I know it's a Rydell helmet. I know they do crazy things, but like, how the heck do they get this logo onto those helmets? Because that's probably one of the sickest logos that I've ever seen on a helmet, man. It's really.
I agree. It looks straight out of Avatar. Like it looks really cool.
Yes,
Those color
okay.
combos.
Yep.
This is something that if I sent to Dan O'Connor, he'd be like, "Dude, you're killing me. This is a hand painted helmet. I can't do this."
Yeah, like that's what they look like. They're hand painted. And I guess maybe if you only got a 20-man roster, then it's okay. But a lot of these guys, send their stuff to these custom artists and stuff like that. Now that, just like you had the person doing the cleats, maybe they got somebody who paints helmets for a living. But
Definitely.
These are really sharp. Again, if you're listening to the show, pop on and at least check out the picture of these. Maybe I'll even put it out as a post on Instagram, because I think they're worth it. But we're moving on. The next picture here is a man it looks like an older gentleman here, but I'll explain who this is. And this is a post from Flow Track, and the Penn relays were last week. And the picture of this guy, they had the 100-meter dash for Masters version, I guess, where it was all senior citizens who ran it. This is Pete Ryan, all right, legendary coach from Gateway Regional High School. He's in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. He still coaches the wrestling team. He's in there every day, rolling around in his wrestling shoes. He's on the mats. He's wrestling with the kids. He helps out with the track team. He participated in this Masters version of the 100-meter dash at the Penn relays, and it was just a really cool experience. And I think we had an in-service, or it was take your child to work day. So there was a big classroom full of people who they were live streaming it on the video board, and they watched the race. And Coach Ryan he went out there and he gave it his all. And I think he's like 70, 75, 76, 77 years old, and just went out there. And the title at the bottom is "Still Got It," check, and that's from Flow Track, and that awesome. Got some major traction there. So I thought that was a pretty awesome picture and a great memory for him to have, for sure.
Love that, Coach. Penn relays is an incredible setting. One of the coolest things I ever saw in sports was right after Justin Gatlin had defeated Usain Bolt in the Olympics. Less than 6 months later, the Team USA running the 4x1. Justin Gatlin was the second leg, took the baton when he was not in first, kicked up, took the lead. Team USA ran away with it. But it was really cool seeing the world's fastest man in a gold medal event running the 100. When he handed off the baton, Coach, he watched the next leg in the exchange, turned around, put one finger up in the air, and just walked back. Didn't even watch the finish of the race. He knew that his team had it. It was really cool.
Wow, that is pretty cool. It's confidence. It's nice to have that confidence that, like, all right, I can put my faith in. I know if we got a certain lead or whatever it might be, that my guys aren't going to screw it up unless something catastrophic happens. But that'll wrap up our Look Good, Feel Good, Play Good segment. Coach, tell us who it's brought by.
As always, we love them. Twinning Tees, celebrating life's little moments and big moments. Custom clothing. Check out what they got. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Twinning Tees.
We're moving on to our What's Going On segment. We got a lot to cover here tonight, and a lot of this stuff was topics. I'll be honest, a lot of topics that you came up with, Coach, and I'm happy to dive in here, but I'm going to let you take the lead on a lot of this stuff. And the first headline here, it says off-season training gone wrong. And I saw this. This is one of those stories that was, a couple weeks old, and it's been sitting in our queue here for a little bit, and we're finally getting a chance to talk about it tonight. 80 kids in a Texas high school athletic period. It says 20 were ultimately hospitalized with issues, including rhabdo, following pattern of systemic abuse over several days. 12 families filed lawsuit. Explain to the people what happened here, and let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so it seemed like a class. So they have athletic periods where they're able to train during the school day in Texas, which we've talked about. And it seems like a pattern where things kind of got out of control and was a punishment and ongoing. Coach, I was reading about this article again today, and now they're talking about deleted emails and school administration cover up, just all the things you don't want to see when something goes bad, right? You're better off getting out in front, owning it and apologizing and trying to help people instead of covering things up. But they were in a particular session where it had kids do about 420 to 450 push-ups. And then when they suffer from rhabdo or rhabdomyosis or what, I can't even say it, but rhabdo, which is a condition where your kidneys start basically attacking and filtering your blood and your muscles, causing your body to break down more and more rapidly. It's very, very debilitating. It can be lethal if you don't get a hold of it immediately. And just something that makes you think from a school district, all the resources that you put into things, the ability to be able to train and possibly hire the utmost professional people when looking after the well-being and teaching and development. And I always think, Coach, I know you're kind of similar, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I want people coming back to the weight room. I don't want them not able to walk for 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even let alone something terrible like this, and then you have 12 people following suit against it as well. But you just hate to see it, man.
Well, you hate to see it, and that's going to obviously 12 people filing a lawsuit. That's going to get the school in hot water. It's going to get the coach in hot water, obviously, and who knows, rightfully so, depending on if there was negligence or not. But I go back to a story here, Coach, and I tell this story a lot, and kind of inform the listeners that aren't from the state of New Jersey here. We start our workouts as a football program so freaking early anymore. Okay, so we could start the day after the spring championship ends, which I think this year it's like June 15th. Okay, so my first year as a head coach in Cherry Hill, I'm out there and it's early June and or middle of June, and mind you, there's no athletic trainer. There's no athletic trainer at these practices because they're not quote unquote contracted to be there for those times or those months or whatever. So I make the mistake, and I'm never in pad. I wasn't in pads. I might have been in helmets at the time. That was my first year, but that was my last year doing it in helmets. And we had just a practice at night. We do, and still my same schedule that I do now. We'll lift it from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. or from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then we'll practice out on the field with no equipment from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And I still do that schedule now. So it was the same thing in Cherry Hill. And I had, it was the end of one of our sessions, and it was an early session, and I didn't really know who anybody was because I was a first-year head coach, and, everybody was new and everybody was excited, so they wanted to come out for the football team. And we ran some sprints at the end of practice, dude. And it was nothing overly grueling. It was sideline to sideline, okay? And we did it maybe twice. One sideline up, one sideline back, and that was it. And I blow the whistle, and I bring everybody up, and we're in a huddle, and there's a kid over on the side. And he's like kind of like hunched over, and I'm like, dude, you okay? And like this kid like fell to the ground, and his eyes rolled into the back of his head, and it like scared me to death, dude. I had to I think for some reason I want to say the athletic director was still there at the time or something, but I had no idea what was going on. And this kid was like, I didn't eat anything. So I'm like, I had to call 911. One of my first practices, and we wound up, kid was dehydrated. Obviously, he didn't, it wasn't anything too serious. He wound up being fine the next day.
Better off calling and making sure. That's a great move.
But I said, I'll never I'll never condition again in not like
Early part,
like in
right.
those early practices, because
Yeah.
there's no athletic trainer. I said I will never condition. I said the most I'll do is go through some basic football drills, and we'll go through and install our offense and our defense at a mild pace. And I still do that to this day because there's no athletic trainers, and I don't understand the reasoning why, if we're allowed to practice legally by the state, why we can't have somebody on hand monitoring the kids. And like you said,
Yeah, you know why.
you see videos of it all the time and pictures of it all the time. Teams are out here in June practicing in helmet and shoulder pads.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that's great if you got somebody there, if you have a trainer there.
Yeah.
But I'm not there, and I've never been there, and I don't know many people that do have trainers at their practice. But like you said, I really walk a fine line, and my off-season training, my summer training is very, very restricted, man.
Yeah, that's a good move. I know Coach Rob Davis and myself, who I mention a lot, we are of the school of thought that we'd rather do too little than too much. And we want them hungry for more, not fed up and burning out, But that's a great point by you, Coach. Calling, acting, making sure that that player is safe and okay. That's great action by you. Good job having a plan in place for a scary situation like that. Coach, my first season jumping back to college was the first year they implemented doing the sickle cell test for every college athlete. Because you don't know, man. Like they're not scanning players' chests in high school. There's not a sickle cell test in high school. Like there's a lot of things that people aren't aware of. And just being prepared in an emergency situation and acting first. And I'd rather be sitting here like you're talking about and say, man, that was scary. I'm glad he was okay, than certainly the alternative.
Yeah, it was scary, and it was a wake-up call, and it was a learning experience for me as a new head coach. And we got a ton of learning experiences for new head coaches. Hey, there's another one, new head coach. Something happens, don't be afraid to call 911, man. Get help there. We're moving on. We're still talking about it, the off-season development, and you see it all the time. And I see it, dude. Like I've talked about my daughter. I have an 18-year-old daughter going off to play college soccer this year, or this coming fall. And I send her all the time. I'm on Instagram with all these trainers and stuff like that. And I'm always sending her clips. I'm like, yo, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. I have a little bit of an idea if it's actually beneficial for her soccer development, but not fully an idea. But talk to me about what we're looking at here. And you have the headline here, real trainers versus Instagram trainers. Talk to me a little bit about what we got going on.
Yeah, so I think that we see this trend. One of the great things, Coach, I think the quality of sports over the time of right when we were coming into high school into now has improved so dramatically because you see professional level training trickle down to the high school level, right? And I just think the quality of our sports are better. Our athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster and better. And I think that's a positive sign. Well, the negative side effect to that is, like I remember I was at the Philadelphia Eagles facility one time, this guy who's now the director of strength and performance with the Indianapolis Colts, Coach Minnis, his name was, and we were talking about training. And he had just been at USC, and then he was with the Eagles for a couple years. And we were talking about how when we see videos of, I don't know, pick the player, DK Metcalf, right? Lane Johnson, right? There's a video of Lane Johnson doing full extension pull-ups, like repping him out like he's 155
We all know about Lane Johnson, Coach.
Yeah. But it's we see these freaks of nature doing these extreme training, and then some 15-year-old in high school who didn't eat breakfast and didn't drink anything all day is going to try to do the same, right? So on the right-hand side here, if you're not looking at it, there's a picture of Derrick Henry. Obviously in incredible shape, strength, and training, but he's got a bar set up on a rack in a bench press level. He has a giant med ball, but instead of like laying down to bench press, he's on top of the bar in like a push-up position. His feet are on the ball to help stabilize, and he has probably 200 pounds worth of chain wrapped around his neck, like to help weigh him down. Now, this is an extreme of one of the best athletes and players on the planet. But if a junior in high school tries this, like, you're wrong. Coach, can you read the tweet there for us? Because I think it has a great point.
It says, amazing lesson here for athletes and coaches from All-Pro Devontae Adams. Don't get caught up in drills on Instagram. Keep it simple. Keep it effective. Hammer fundamental. A lesson applicable to athletes of all sports.
Yeah. So you look at this, and this was from a tweet where it had a video of Devontae Adams doing the most fundamental drills and skill work. And you look at how incredible of a career he's had. And it
Yeah.
should be something if the drill work you're doing does not mirror what you need to do in a game, you're probably off target a little bit, right?
Coach,
And
if
we've
I
talked
had
about
if
this
I
with
had
you.
a 16 or 17-year-old kid doing this in the weight room and they looked at the cameras, I'd be out of a job. But I always find it funny how sometimes there's those videos that pop up on social media that are almost like poking fun at like the receiver drills that have all the cones and all the cutting, and you're going
Yeah.
in and out and around the cones.
Yep.
It's like, dude, when are you ever going to do that? I'm right there with you. Functional
Yeah.
movement and stuff that you're going to work on, stuff that you're going to do. I tell my daughter to say all the time, I say, you're never going to run 3 miles straight. I said, but you're going to sprint 60 yards and then you're going to walk back and then you're going to sprint 60 yards again and then you're going to walk back. I said, work on that stuff. Do the stuff that you're going to do in the game that you're going to actually, it's actually going to help you. And then, don't try and do too much. So, man, if anybody, I would like to see some of my guys try to attempt doing what Mr. Henry's doing here with this plyo ball and the chains around.
Coach, favorite video of that is, tango dancing, trying to get off the line of scrimmage. And then side by side, it shows the Malcolm Jenkins absolutely nuking Brandon Cooks in that Super Bowl. And it's like, pretend football versus real football,
Yeah, for sure. We're moving on here. I've seen that video too. It's funny. And we're sticking with the topic of off-season development. And I asked you, talk to me about this 300-hour club, Coach, because I'm looking at this this graphic here, and it says a 300-hour club. It's an off-season sports development program that could be applied to all sports. Talk to us about what that means.
Yeah, so this is from Coach Greg Burge. I've been following him on Twitter most frequently. He was a really successful basketball coach, but he dived into the off season and he realized if he had his players achieve what he designed as the 300-hour club, then his teams were going to be really successful. They were going to be playoff teams, and his players were going to take the next step in their development, right? And if you look at it, he had different things. It was like he had workouts in the weight room that would count towards some of it. He had open gym, open courts. He had trainers come in. They had summer league ball. So he was probably providing 120 to 150 hours of this. Mm-hmm. The other half of it had to come from the player. And it could be just individual training. It could be, sprint training and plyo work and dynamic movements. Or it could even be things like we talk about. He said he had different books on leadership that he would recommend for players to read. It could be just in basketball, watching NBA games, seeing how different players play in situational settings. But he talked about creating this so that his players could have success and take that next step that they envisioned for themselves going into that next season. I just thought it was a really good point. It made me think of that Malcolm Gladwell book where they talk about the 10,000 hour rule, right? If you go 10,000 hours on a topic, you will become an expert, right? And that's done over studies over decades long. And I was just thinking about this, about each team. I'm like, all right, if this is a high school and you do this for 4 years, let's say your senior year, you do a little bit more. We're talking about what, 1,500 hours, 2,000 hours, right? We think about all the sports that you play growing up. Let's say that's another 2,000 hours, right? So you're almost 5,000 hours into that expert field. Then you become a college player, right? Then you get close to doubling it. But it's saying the best players in the league at the NFL or the NBA hit that 10,000 hour mark and they become experts in their field. So it was kind of interesting to me, and it's something that we look at with our team. And Coach, something that we do, we talk about, we have 3 hours of training per week in the weight room, right? That's the minimum. You're expected to be there, but that's what we have. So if you come to that, and let's say Coach Daley, you were a scholarship player, so you were throwing for 3 hours a week on the side. And then you went to Keith Jackson for 2 hours a week on top of that, right? And then you would go to the gym with your buddies and do some auxiliary work for another 2 hours. Well, you're putting in 10 hours of work versus my 3 hours of work. And over the course of a month, right, I'm doing 12 hours of work in my game. You're doing 40, right? Then we times that for 10 months from an off season to the season. That's 400 hours for you, Right. So again, that's just kind of
Yeah.
you look at it and you figure out to my 120. Like, and that's how people separate themselves as players and really take a giant step in their development. And I think this 300 hour club and the things that he has specifically listed, coach. And then the point that he says, no deposit, no return, right? You don't pay the price now, you're not going to reap the rewards. But there's all different ways where you can improve as a player. And I think that's a great point too.
Yeah, so it's really intriguing, and I've never, like I said, I've never seen this or heard of it until tonight. But it's really intriguing information, and it makes sense too. Like, obviously, the more work that you put in over your counterpart, obviously, the more advanced you're going to be. But I do remember one thing, like when I was in high school, I played at Eastern, and like, okay, we would have our practices, and I would do my training and stuff like that. But our head coach, Dan Spittle, who's still up at Rutgers now. He invested in a sports psychiatrist for us.
Wow.
And maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, we would go in there either before or after practice and talk to a sports psychiatrist. And as high school kids, it was like, this is all new territory. We're talking about things that, it's 2006, 2007 that, that we didn't know existed, and you talk about, mental health is so prevalent now in today's society. Like, this was like mental health before mental health was a thing. And it was, we spent a lot of time doing that. And I think it was really helpful for us as a team to kind of grow together and learn more about each other and learn what kind of makes us tick. And I've actually tried looking into, hiring somebody similar to that, but haven't been very successful. But I know there's a couple guys out there, like, I know Coach Watson's doing a great job with what he's doing right now and all his speaking engagements and stuff like that. It's kind of like the same thing, motivational stuff, but challenging yourself. So definitely cool stuff there, stuff to keep in mind. And it's really a wake-up call for the guys who out there who think that, they're going to get to where they want to be just by showing up 3 hours a week. And it usually doesn't work that way. Right, Coach?
Yeah. And it's even more true with the guys that don't even make the 3 hours a week. Coach, I got a question I want you to think about. I'm going to try to do the same. This week, you and I should come up with how many hours we structure for our teams in this offseason before camp. And then I'll kind of give us a gauge of how much more players might need to find a way to do to hit that 300-hour mark.
All right, I'll take it. You're giving me homework, Coach, but I appreciate it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good content when we come back with it next week. We're moving on here, kind of changing topics a little bit. Where does multi-sports athletes fit? And it's such a hot topic right now. You don't want guys to guys not to specialize or play one sport or whatever it might be. And you take a look here at the screen. It's St. Joe's Montville, Christian Alvarez is a double state champion in his senior season wrestling, and now he's a state champion in football, and now he's on to a 2-sport career, the North Carolina Tar Heels, which is unheard of, Coach.
Yeah,
you don't.
Especially those 2 sports at his size,
right? I mean, you're talking about. And this guy's wrestling heavyweight, and he's an offensive lineman, but he's jacked. He looks like he could play tight end if he wanted to. But talk to us a little bit about this story, about him in particular, and what your opinion, I guess, is on these guys that choose not to play multi-sports.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, incredibly impressive and what a resume, Coach, to be a double state champ on the way out the door. That is awesome. And then to go to UNC, where academically it's extremely prestigious education. I think that's really cool as well. I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this because we're football in general, I think, used to have a bad reputation, maybe through like the 80s, maybe the 90s. But football is the most sharing of athletes, more so than any other sports. And there's some specialized sports where they are extremely, I don't want to say greedy, but they're very uncomfortable with the idea of their best players and athletes being a part of a football program as well. I know when I was at Clearview, we had a ton of lacrosse players that were All-Americans in high school.
Yeah.
We had a ton of college baseball players. And we have a rule. We 100% defer to your other sport in the offseason all the time. But then you see the graphics about like the NFL draft, and it'll say, 28 out of 32 first-round draft picks were multi-sport athletes. And I kind of wanted to pick your brain on this because I feel like, we interpret that as coaches and say, oh, you play more sports, you'll be more athletic.
Yeah.
But or is it just the greatest athletes are successful in any sport that they do? Like, are we applying the effect and calling it the cause? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're correct there with the latter part of it. I mean, ironically enough, like I played one sport in high school. Like I didn't play anything else, and I got scholarship, whatever. Like I did what I did, but I didn't necessarily, I'm like you though. I tell my guys to play multiple sports. If you want to play basketball, go play basketball. If you want to wrestle, go wrestle. You should wrestle. Like I'd rather have my guys, honestly, in the wrestling, especially my linemen. I'd rather have my offensive and defensive linemen wrestling in the winter than come into the weight room, because I know they're going to lift anyway. Like the wrestling team's going to lift anyway. Dude, I think wrestling is the greatest friggin' sport, especially for a big guy. I'm dealing with a problem right now, Coach. Like I got half of my offensive linemen are playing golf right now. I'm friends with the golf coach. And I like my linemen, but I'm like, dude, what do we like? You're playing JV golf,
right?
And what are we doing? So you're missing. We're missing the weight room, and and we're down that road. But we're finding ways around it and get those guys in. But listen, I've always been the coach that said, hey, you want to go play another sport? Go play another sport. I have a good friend of mine, that coached another sport over at the Cherry Hill region, those East Cougars, that swore that he was all about his guys playing multiple sports, but I never saw any of his guys play on the football team. And they were tall. They were very tall guys, if you're getting my drift here, and they never came out for the football team. So I don't know what the deal was there, but man, like I said, I can't get behind guys who tell their kids not to play a sport. It's high school. It's high school, man. But like you said, I think the best players or the best athletes are going to be the best players, especially like a Group 1 school. If I had all my kids stay and not play and specialize in football, every other sport would suffer, because the basketball team and the baseball team, it's all the same guys. They're all the same guys, So I don't know. I like I said, I'm a proponent of it, but you don't always get that same love and that same reciprocation from other coaches. And there's guys out there who will lie right to your face. They'll say, yeah, no, I never told them to specialize or not to play football or something. I'm like, dude, BS. Like I know. Like don't lie to me.
Coach, it's interesting that you say that too, about finding ways for your golfers to get into the weight room, or you talk about your wrestling team being active and lifting. At a couple different places I was at, if the coach did not agree with having his team strength train, I would not recommend playing with them. Now, I never went out of my way to say you can't play this sport, but if somebody brought it up, like our lacrosse coach and baseball coach when I was at Clearview, were in the weight room 5 days a week with me. Our baseball coach at EHT is in the weight room every time we have a session. Our track coach is incredible. He has our throwers lift all the time with us, our throwers coaches as well, and then the sprinters come in and lift and train with him. Like those are coaches that I would 10 times out of 10 say, yeah, go try it. I think you'd be good at this event and this event, and if there's a team that somebody doesn't, I don't say anything at all. It's a great sport.
Yeah, well, we've learned that we've learned that over the past 7 weeks or so, that silence is a very telling thing with you. And if you don't agree with something or you don't like something and a kid asks you, you're not really going to talk too much about it. And I think that's your cue there, that they could pick up on the opinion that you might have on the matter. Is that safe to say there, Coach?
Sometimes, Coach, I try to be real calculated in what I say.
There you go. Hey, we're moving on. We're going to wrap this thing up before we get on to our questions of the week, because we got questions that file in. It's that's like a topic or a segment that really took off, Coach. So we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. We're still talking on the multi-sports talk. Who are we looking at here? Bryce Bocher has now been drafted in 2 sports.
So just pretty cool. Yeah,
Good.
what a statement, right? And again, I think this is more to that, like you were just talking about Alvarez, that we're studying the effect and thinking it's the cause. This guy was good enough to he had football scholarships, went to play baseball at Oregon, walked on to play football, became a starter in both sports. He actually used to warm up in baseball. He'd have his football helmet on the on deck circle, and they would celebrate home runs with it. But pretty cool
That's
to see
funny.
somebody have this much success. And although it's hard, I think baseball and football is an easier crossover than football and wrestling. Like that might be the toughest one in college sports, coach.
Yeah, like I got no problem with my guys playing baseball, but make sure you're in the weight room. You got to be in the weight
Amen.
room, you know.
Yep.
So
I
we're
think they
moving
are
on.
in
We have a
Oregon.
well, yeah, they looks like they are judging by that guy, but we're moving on. We have a question, and this is the one that we had to bypass this last week because we were just running out of time. And this is a really good question, and it's going to take probably a couple minutes to talk through. But we got our questions from South Jersey segment, and this is Tammy, all right, from Pennsville. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be the first female check-in that we've had here.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you reaching out to us, Tammy, because we, obviously it's as important. And her question is, as parents, sometimes it takes time to put full trust in a coach when it comes to our kids. What are some ways coaches can help assure parents that you have their kids' best interest in mind? And dude, that question like took me back a little bit, Coach, and I had to think about it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let Coach Move go first, and I'm going to defer to you. What do you got to say to this mom from Pennsville?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. And I think I try to do this by being ahead of it. And I try to have things completely outlined in that mission statement, right? We talked about putting that together when you interview for a school or reach out and try to interview. But when you have that mission statement, that overarching theme that becomes the foundation of everything that you do in your program, if a parent looks at that and, we're assuming that you did a good job putting that together, that shouldn't have anything to do with football specifically or directly, right? It should be about how you conduct yourself as a person, the expectations and the standards that you hope to set, and then how you hope to impact and guide and be something positive for the players. And I think if that comes across as genuine, and we talked about players being able to smell through what's fake and what's not, parents can do that really well as too, also.
I agree.
So I think if you come across genuine and you're aware that this is a vehicle that provides a lot of really positives, but the game's going to end, right? The greatest football player ever, Tom Brady, maybe, right? Played 20 plus years, won 7 Super Bowls, is now a former football player. How did you treat the people that you interacted with? What are you going to do with the next 40 or 50, 60 years of your life?
Yeah.
Like who you are as a player is way more important than what you do as a player, right? The person is more important than the player. One of the things I like, Coach Rob Davis, where I'm at EHT, he is so immediate with if there's something going on, like anytime that there's a school coming in, he puts parent and guardian in a group text with the player and updates them every single day. Hey, so-and-so's coming in tomorrow. Like this morning, we just had a group working out at 6:30 in the morning for Stony Brook. Put those players that they talked about seeing in a group. We had the offer to our tight end from Stony Brook and let those guys know. And now all those players are being evaluated, but the parents know as well, right? So he's really good at being out in front of things. And I think if you try to use your program, and people will see over time that if you're genuine, you have their kids' best interest at heart. And then you try to find ways to validate what they do for the program and the sacrifices that they make, whether they score 50 touchdowns or they're the 50th man on your roster. I think when that comes across to people, and Tammy's right, it does take time, but they believe in your cause more and more. And then they become they echo what you do, right? That becomes your hype man, your support network. It's really cool to see that take over. And then all of a sudden those people have your back.
Yeah. It's funny that you say, you mentioned that about the colleges come in, and I guess Coach Davis from Stony Brook is making his rounds because he was at Gateway yesterday. And I'm always learning, dude. We're always learning. And like, dude, I just learned something from you because I don't post on social media. about all the colleges that come through and visit Gateway. Like, dude, a lot of coaches, a lot of high schools, they'll take pictures with every coach that comes through. They'll put it on Twitter and say, "Hey, thanks, Coach so and so, for coming through." I don't do that. I think it's like I thought it was kind of phony, but then on the other side, now that I'm thinking of it, like that you just explained, it's keeping the parents informed too. And it's keeping the parents informed of what's going on. Hey, this guy's coming through. These colleges are coming through, because they are coming through at Gateway, but nobody knows about it except for the kids that they talk to, because I don't put it out there, because I've never had the desire to put it out there. But I might steal that from you guys, and hey, let the parents know at least, hey, this guy's coming through, and he's going to come through tomorrow. But that's good stuff. Awesome. But
Coach, I think too, I saw down in I think it was Kirby Smart was who I saw doing it, so it must have been somewhere in Georgia. But a high school had set up, like, they had their logo on the wall on like a mounted sign, and they had every college coach who came in sign it. I'm like, that's a really cool way to do exactly what you're talking about. Because you're right, I hate, I don't want to be the guy jumping in a picture with people. If you notice the pictures I put up, I'm never in them. You know what I mean? When I'm celebrating or promoting a program. But that's a really cool way that you can notify people. You can celebrate all the schools that come in, and then you can show them, like, hey, Gateway is a place that you need to go on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, no, and that's and I go back to Coach Spittle, and when I was in high school, they would, every time a coach came through, he would have them sign the whiteboard. Same kind of concept, Say, sign the whiteboard, you leave your business card up there, and at the end of the year, you had 150 plus schools come through, and it was really cool. And it was fun to see. But just to piggyback off of what you were saying about this question, it's never about football with me. And I make the point known at our player parent meeting, hey, I want our kids to be positive members of the community, and I'm going to help your son become a better person, and that's my goal. And then you have the people where they're like, well, I don't, we don't really need another parent. And I'm like, well, I understand that, but the reality of the situation is your kid is with me from August until November,
more than
he's going to be with you. All right. And in the off season, he's training with us 3 days a week, or 3 or 4 days a week. So I am going to be an influence, and there's no doubt about that. So I'm going to help them be a better student. I'm going to help them be a better member of their community if I could help it. I'm just going to be a resource to them, and trying to explain that part and get that out there early, especially for the the incoming freshmen and stuff, because those parents are the ones who are the most nervous, because they don't know. The guys who've been with me for 4 years, they know how I roll and how I work and what I'm about, and that's what he said. It's not about football. Of course, the wins and losses are nice, but it's so much bigger than that. We do a community service event every year that I'm so proud of, and to get the kids out there in the community and just just be positive influences in the community. That's what it's about for me. So hopefully that my parents can attest to what I'm doing with my kids too. So we're moving on. We got Steve in Galloway here, down by you, Coach. It seems like to be a trend. Says, when interviewing for a first head coaching job, how can you win the interview with a disadvantage of not having prior head coaching experience? It's a good question. I'll go first here. Energy, enthusiasm, confidence. I think if you go in there and you're not confident in what you're doing, or you're not prepared, the worst thing that you could do, I think, going into your first interview, is not have anything with you. I just remember, dude, I remember when I stepped down at Cherry Hill, I stayed there for another year, maybe longer, but I watched guys come in through the door who were interviewing for the position. And I'm like, that guy doesn't have any material with him. I'm like, you just walk in empty handed. I don't understand how you do something like that. The one guy I talked to said, oh, how many seniors are you losing this year? I said, you don't know that? I said, you're interviewing for the job. You don't know how many seniors are graduating, or you don't know who's coming back? I said, dude, and that's the thing. You got to be prepared, and you got to be confident, and just believe in yourself, man. I walked into that Cherry Hill interview after having that conversation with Coach Coleman that we talked about, and I was confident as could be because I said there's no possible way that anybody's walking in there and talking to the athletic director about what he wants to do with the friggin' drum line before the game and how they want to walk into the stadium and get the students involved. Like, it's just be confident in yourself and be prepared. That's what I have for that question.
Yeah, it's a really good question too. I think that's a great answer there, Coach. Coach, the only thing I would add to this is own your shortcomings. And I'll give people a question. This is free game again. You can utilize this for any interview, but especially if it's something, if I'm going into an interview and I haven't been a head coach, I know that that's in the back of their mind. So you want to get them to ask that, and in interviews, they won't. So one of the things I would say is, when they say, do you have any questions for us? I would say, is there anything right now that concerns you about me as a viable candidate that I can address right now that would otherwise keep me from moving on to the next round? Right. And that gives you the opportunity to serve up. Well, you've never been a head coach. That might come out. And some places it might not. They might not be concerned about it, especially if you come in with that infectious energy and passion and people feel like, wow, this is our guy. It might not concern them. But if it does, it should come out. And that offers you the opportunity to address directly how prepared you are in spite of this. Yes, but, I learned from these head coaches. This is how we used to game plan. This is how we called our plays. He was the play caller, but I was up top looking, and this is what I did. When I was in college, I was up top in the booth as a coach, and these were my responsibilities, You could even say things like sub-varsity experience, while being the primary play caller for JV for these amount of years, this was our record, these were our stats per, whatever it might be, that you're presenting your own case. So you can craft that answer to address that weakness and try to attack it and convince those people, yes, I'm aware, I know this is an obstacle, this is how I'm prepared for it, and this is how I'm going to attack that and turn it into a strength.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, Coach, I don't think that they've ever been more impressed than when I told them that I threw 7 touchdowns in a flag football adult league last weekend at the size that I was. So, I think that might have won me over for a couple positions.
I like it.
We're moving on. Our last question, Rob from Manahawkin. What were the biggest challenges you faced as a first-time head coach, or things you wished you had been more prepared for? Man, that's you got an answer ready to go? Because I got an answer.
Yeah, man, I got one that we could do a whole hour episode on. So,
all right, well, let's keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes, okay?
Yeah. So I would say this: there are going to be things that pop up that you're not going to be prepared for and don't think of, no matter the situation, no matter if you've been a head coach or not before. Right? There's just going to be things that arise and unravel. And I think, again, that's why it's so important to have a clearly defined vision and mission statement, because that becomes your guiding light and your North Star in how you're going to handle when these things arise and present themselves. I'll tell you what, Coach, I look back and, I typically look through things through an offensive lens in prior years. And I still will cringe and get so mad at myself. I know I said this a couple times of, I should have used this player this way. We should have dived into this scheme more. This is how I could have involved these players more. You're always going to be improving. But I think it's really important that if you're honest, and we talked about kids being able to smell through phony, if you're yourself, if you own anything that might be a misstep or something you feel that you could prepare and do better, I think players really gravitate towards that accountability and honesty. And I think it's a great thing. And then the other thing I'll say, like, I'm a kind of person when I think something's wrong, I'm coming to it right away. Right. Like, think about, like, I think it's what the bison is the only animal when a tornado's coming, they run towards it. Right. Or the ibis, the Miami
crazy.
Hurricanes, that bird is during a hurricane, it flies towards the storm so that actually you get through the worst part of it immediately. Because if you try to avoid something, if you try to sweep it under a rug, if you try to negotiate or compromise with your morals and your standards, and what is right and you are what is wrong, it's only going to grow and come back even bigger.
Yeah.
So
that cannot end well for the bison.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
that bison. Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. It might work for the bird. I don't think for the bison. You can't take on a tornado, dude.
They run through the storm. So if a storm's coming, everything else is going the opposite direction.
Yeah, you ever seen the movie Twister when the cows are all flying around? It's the same thing, dude. Yeah, one thing that comes to mind for me is you don't, and this is such a broad answer, but it's one that stands out to me. You, as a new head coach, you don't have to say yes to everything, okay? Because when you take 500 people coming up to you, whether it's alumni or parents or members of the community, say, hey, I played back in the 80s. I'd love to come talk to the boys, really fire them up. And then you're like, yeah, sure, come on over. And then they come over and they talk to the kids and they're like, you need to kill them and rip their heads off and rip their throats out when I was playing. And I'm like, dude, this was the biggest mistake of my life. Dude, you don't have to say yes to everything. Like, get your feet under you, get comfortable, all right, and then like as you get more comfortable, then you kind of learn who you should be surrounding yourself with and who you want involved with your program, and you don't have to feel like you're obligated to let everybody come in and it's your program, dude. Your name is at the top of it. Everything is a direct reflection of you. So when I had a guy who came into my locker room and might have had a couple too many and he was giving a halftime speech, I'm like, dude, this is a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? So try to avoid that. But
good point, Coach. Good point.
Yeah, that'll wrap up our question segment. We're going to move on to our weekly awards. And I handled the awards this week, Coach. I think you did a lot of other stuff. So we'll go right into it. Coach of the week this week is Coach Sam Tropiano from Bishop Eustace Prep, the baseball coach. All right. What a week for him. Coach Trop is South Jersey's all-time win leader. He reached 800 career wins last week with an 8-1 victory over Shawnee. He took the job at Bishop Eustace, Coach, in 1988.
Wow.
I was born in 1988. I'll be 38 years old in 3 weeks. All right. That's a long time.
It is.
Coach has had 5 state championships, 6 Diamond Classic victories, and 6 major league players drafted, or not drafted, but 6 players to play in the major leagues. Congratulations to Coach Sam Tropiano from Bishop Eustace Prep, getting it done. 800 career wins. What an accomplishment, man. That's awesome.
No doubt. Coach, when you talk about the Diamond Classic as well, so in baseball, they play against their group size and they win a state championship. The Diamond Classic it takes all of the best programs at all different group sizes and puts them into a tournament of play. So in the baseball world, if you win the Diamond Classic, it's looked at as more prestigious and a bigger honor than even winning a state championship. So that's extremely impressive.
Yeah, Diamond Classic's huge. We're moving on to Player of the Week, and I just had to be a homer here for a second. My Player of the Week, I'm trying to will this victory so we could win this series. The Flyers, man, we started off 3-0, and now the series is 3-2 going back to Philadelphia tomorrow night. My Player of the Week is rookie forward Alex Bump. Bump made his NHL debut just back in March, so he hasn't been in the league that long at all. He's been a healthy scratch all last night. His first play game of the year of the series, he had a goal and 4 shots on goal and was just all over the place for the Flyers. I'm hoping that Bump can do a little bit better tomorrow night and we can get the victory and we can put this thing to bed and move on to the next series. Player of the Week, Alex Bump from the Philadelphia Flyers. Hey, you didn't know we were going to get some hockey in here on the Daily Move podcast tonight, did you, Coach?
Some hockey playoff action. Coach, I'm looking forward to this next game, man. Coming back to Philly, let's send them home.
Dude, I am too, and I've recently got back into hockey this year, and it's been a blast. But listen, hey, we're right on time, man. We're at an hour here. It's been a great show, a lot of great stories, a lot of great information, man. I really love those questions that keep coming in. So, again, if you have questions, reach out to us. Send us a message on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be. Shoot us an email, dailymovepodcast@gmail.com. Keep the questions coming.
If they know us, shoot us a text.
We'll put it right, dude. It's been awesome, and I really love. I think that's like probably my favorite segment of the show so far is those questions because it's all real stuff, man. It's all real world experiences. So keep them coming. Again, live show tonight. We're wrapping up. Listen to us tomorrow on your drive to work. Thursday, check in with the No Huddle. We got some fun stuff to talk about on the No Huddle show. And then Friday again is our South Jersey Spotlight. We are going to be breaking down Friday the Liberty Division and the Memorial Division, and we're going to be talking about those players, man. Be on the lookout for that. As always, we appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share wherever you get your podcast. The more you do, the more we can do. Coach Move, what do you got for them as we head out here?
You know it, Coach. Everybody, find a way to win.
Find a way to win, baby. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you for joining us.